we flew, we went down and we were gonna go out on an aircraft carrier. And so I arrived at the carrier, and I've got Wally Sharar's outfit on, Lieutenant Commander. I've got the whole works. And I come aboard, and the guy salutes me. I salute him back. And remember, I had a rough time in the Navy. I really did. And so they brought me off the officers' country on the carrier. And the guy said, "Would you like anything?" And I said, "Yeah, some coffee, please." I was treating him bad. He was an ensign. I never liked ensigns. And he brings me the coffee, and I took a sip, and I said, "Is this old? Could you make some fresh coffee?" He said, "Yes, sir." Yeah. So as an actor, that's like one of those moments. Yeah, payback's a bitch. I'll get you eventually. It's really funny. Anyway, then they launched us off the carrier. It was great. But how would a kid from New York, shoeshine boy from New York, end up on an aircraft carrier getting launched in a jet? I mean, how does that happen? I'm always have nothing but gratitude. Any more questions? You again?
I'm sorry.
It's all right. You're gonna ask me. What was my favorite
I promise
movie?
this will be my last
Don't
one.
you do that.
How was it playing with Sigourney Weaver?
Playing what?
With Sigourney Weaver, like how was that experience?
I'm from New York. I used to see her walk down the
Yeah,
street.
she's from Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
I'm from Staten Island.
Oh, there you go.
Nobody here knows what a fucking knish is.
I didn't live on conditions. I lived on chopped chicken liver.
Chopped-
There was that much chopped chicken liver and 2 pieces of bread. And I was a starving actor, believe me. Anyway, that's kept me alive. And I had occasional conditions. No, Sigourney would be walking down the street. She walked like a gazelle. She's very tall, and when she walked, she strutted. It was like some kind of animal. So I remember her well. And then when the movie happened, she was really kind and ready and happy. She was reprising that role, so she's smart. She's very good on the stage too. I've seen her at the Long Wharf. I go to theater a lot in New York. I did. Not anymore. Because I make pottery, I can't move. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Good.
thoroughly. Thank you.
I sound like I bumped my head or something.
I'm just curious, have you done stage work? I don't know.
How many what?
Have you ever done stage work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did about 7 years of theater in New York, and then finally went to Broadway. And then I did my first movie, and the theater went out the window. No. That theater was like, it was like learning everything. But I never thought theater was I never thought I would do movies. I thought it would end up being like one of those guys that you see in theaters that have been there his whole life. And they all talk perfect, clear, even though they're not from Britain. I thought I was going to end up being one of those guys that just can recite anything. No. I loved movies because it was moment to moment. And if you didn't get it right, you go back and do it again. On theater, I have had such funny stuff. I don't want to tell you my theater stories. Funny stuff happened. Yeah. But did I answer you?
You did, sir.
We had a hell of a night last night. we actually talked. I've never been around such smart people. I mean, we were talking about stuff last night and it was like rapid fire. Everybody was quick. And I said, we should be running the government. Instead of BSing everybody. What was yours?
Oh, I was going to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about your work on the TV series Millennium.
Yeah, Millennium was cool.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing for me was always to play somebody who is so much more educated than I am, to that degree. And thank God for the writers, because they would write things like, I detected an unusual element of mindfulness associated with the violence. Well, what the hell does that mean? I would get the scripts and they would write a line and I'd go, how am I going to wrap my head around this? I mean, what is this? You know, and then I'm talking about really very calculated stuff. And then I thought, after doing it for 3 years, I finally got it. I had read books, all of the profilers' books. I got tapes and stuff from the FBI, and I met them. The Millennium group was patterned after a group from Manassas, Virginia, called the Academy Group. And these guys are all retired or semi-retired people that would do that kind of work, hunting serial killers or threat assessment for corporations, that kind of thing. And I finally met them. And they said, Lance, the only problem we have is when you grab a doorknob and you see the crime, I wish we could do that. But the truth of it is, I never liked that. I thought that that was an editor's cheat, you know, to do those flashes. I never felt they were right. I thought of Frank Black as being a masterful chess player that could put, you know, sort of out of sync details together like a chess player. And you pull a string and the beads become a necklace. You know, that's how he thought. I mean, he never judged anybody. All he knew was, I have to do the right thing. That's it. And he has a family. He loves his kid, he loves his wife. So, like a lot of people in law enforcement, they're not Superman. They work on intuition and try to do the right thing. And it goes south sometimes it goes well. They did one show where in the comic book, they had me slap my daughter. I wouldn't do, you know, the comic book they put out? I was so pissed off about that. I said, that would never happen. Why'd you do that? That's a cheap drama trick. So anyway, but Frank Black, I thought, was the most dignified character I ever played. It was wonderful, really wonderful. Hard work, but it was wonderful. Yeah.
And you talked about, you know, doing your research for that character and doing all that. Have you, over the years, developed any other techniques in memorization of scripts and character development? What other techniques besides just doing physical research?
You guys heard that? You got it? One of the things about acting is everybody has to come to it with who they are. You're not going to suddenly turn yourself inside out and into somebody else. So my way of learning lines is I take big Post-its like that big, put them all around the walls of my house with all my lines on them. So as I'm doing my day, the month before I'm going to do the movie, I'm memorizing it all by absorbing it, not by beating myself up over learning lines. And it's my way of working. Other people will do it different. Some people have the capacity for language. But since I never went to school, I don't even know where you're supposed to put the comma, or this, or you know, whatever. So when I do it that way, it works for me. And then I went to the Actors Studio in New York and did a lot of work there. They finally I auditioned and they made me an observer, whatever. And then Sandy Meisner had a technique, and I went to another guy and learned that, you know. But I was like hungry, not to be part of a cult, but to get the information, and I'll make the decision of what I'm going to use. So it's worked out. I love it. I love what I do. I love learning about other people. I walk on a set and I go, like I've never acted before. I look around and I go, I wouldn't change anybody or anything about who's going to do this. So you start off positive, you know, and it works. I don't want to bore you guys to death, so Yeah.
I'm sitting here next to a couple of people who watched Hard Target for the first time last night. They're telling me I should see it. Should I see Hard Target?
Yeah. John Woo, what a director. He set me on fire. He's the only guy that I would let set me on fire. He did it twice. I got, my adrenaline was up so high you couldn't see the color of my eyes. These guys are leaving. I'm not talking about pottery. Anyway, yeah, that was a great movie to do. When I first met John Woo at Universal, and I said, John, there's a couple of things wrong with your script. If you're going to ask a guy to be chased by us with guns, that if you make it to the edge of town, the $10,000 is yours. But there was nowhere in the script where there was a money belt where you hand the guy the money. If you don't hand me the money, I'm not running anywhere. Why would you do that? It was a piece of logic that wasn't in the script. And I said, well, a question I had was, how did Dick and I ever get together? You know, this South African guy, my right-hand man. And I said, we had to have been either in the Foreign Legion together or something. That's what brought us together. And the other part of it was that why was I doing these the hunts? Because money isn't everything. And I said, what if it's because I have been in so much war that in order to feel normal, I have to raise my speed limit. And the hunts do that for me. So I feel normal rather than depressed. And that was a good approach to the movie. I had met a guy years ago in Washington State that had been in the Vietnam War, and he carried an M60. That's two guys with his ammo, and he was carrying the M60. And he had been through so many fights that when he got back, I remember going to a bar. He was actually painting cars now. We went to a bar together, and I watched him purposely pick fights with guys in the bar. And as soon as he felt normal, he would make friends with me. But he had him right on the edge of a knockdown, drag out. And I remembered that when we did the movie. I went, that's why I'm doing it. So that's my approach, is probably stuff you can act, not intellectual idea that you can't act. I've been around a few of those guys that thought I could act that. I said, that's not actable. You're giving me an idea, but it's not actable. I've almost lost two very important movies that I did because I told the truth. I mean, one of them was, it was called Dead Man with Johnny Depp, and Jim Jarmusch directed it. And when I met Jim for the first time, I said, Jim, I don't want to say a line you wrote for this character. I know why you wrote it, so that the reader of this script could follow the script, right? Follow the story. But that's not what this guy would say. I want to play, I'm talking like this thing. I want to play an ecological disaster. I would kill anything. That's what I want to play. He said, well, what are we going to do for dialogue? I said, on the moment, on the day, we'll have the dialogue. Don't worry about it, we will. And he said, okay. What kind of a salesman am I? And we did. I remember killing the young knife kid. And I had been to a Native American trade store, you know, what do they call it? You know, a store where they're selling their jewelry and everything else. And there was a brick, and it had a car painted on a brick, like a car outline and everything. I said, what is that? And the guy said, it's a Navajo mud toy. And it just seared into my brain. We're in the scene, and I killed that kid, and the other guy comes to me and says, he was just a kid, man. I said, well, it's a Navajo mud toy now. And it was just like that kind of gathering. It's not like I search for it, but if it's in my head, it will come out. All right, you guys. One more? Yeah, you've been patient. We'll let this guy do it. You done too?
I got a million questions though.
I was hoping you could talk to us a little bit about returning to Bishop for Alien versus Predator and playing that role from a human standpoint rather than an android standpoint.
Well, they took the issue out of my hands because what they did was made me a billionaire that was going to do this journey in Antarctica. And what we thought was, he made his money in robotics, Whalen. And they thought that if in the future they would build something as a tribute to him. So they did it for me, and it was fine. And this is his last hurrah, he's dying. You know. But I do remember one scene where I had a gold pen, and I'm ready to fire her because,
Oh, and you're doing
yeah, and
it.
I was sitting there unconsciously did that. And I just threw it in. But it's not like I scheme it or plan it, it just happens. Good question, thank you, brother. Well, thank you guys for being interested. You've actually made me have a beautiful weekend, and this is exactly what I needed, because I've been working a lot right up to the moment I came here, so I'm not bragging. I just I'm tired, mentally tired.
Are you coming back out to your booth for a little bit?
Hey, buddy. You will. I got you. Okay, good. Because for a while he was looking at me like, what's this going to do? All right. I'm going back to LA now, so. Sure.
Never gonna get out of here.
Wait. Would you take a picture?
I will.
Yeah, I hate so.
Too close?
Yeah.
Because I always look like a monster.
Oh, you look great.
I was gonna say, I am ED'd you, and I was like, no way, you're, I don't even want to say it.
Thanks for
Are you going back to your booth at all?
No,
You're done?
getting ready to go to the airport.
Man, I missed you all weekend. Those guys were out talking to you all morning. I was in and out, and I missed you. I have so many questions for you, but would you mind if my wife takes a picture of us together?
Please, sure.
Please, thank you.
Never gonna get out of here.
Hi. You guys are very intelligent person.
All right.
Hi.
Working clay, so
Thank you, sir. Let's do a picture here.
Sorry.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
I remember your character changed too.
Oh, yeah, that's another story.
Man, I know you do, and I would love this. Man, if I could have talked to you last night. So thank you very much.
Welcome, buddy.
This is my daughter Rachel, 11. She has a little,
Yes, did you take a picture? But sweetheart, just a thought. Can I sign that for you?
Oh my gosh.
Just tap the screen.
Excuse me.
You want it straight or
Oh,
side?
there you go. Just take the picture.
Because I need to put this.
Now we're gonna have an inspection.
That's another alien poster. Thank you so much.
So,
Oh, she needs to borrow. Everybody, no, thank God I took it from Alex. Oh my God.
I can,
I know, we left it, we were like, where is the thing?
I've signed about 5 of these all over them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
I have a full-size face like a model.
I wish I would go out for you.
Thank you, sir.
I got those. I watched aliens sometimes. That's funny. Yeah. I have two tattoos. I make sure that there's something I would never regret. I remember when I was little and I watched those for the first time. I said, everybody.
Chaz has got the backing track, so he has to start to stop at a certain time, or else the backing track is going while he's
We thought you would appreciate that.
washing around. He's having a good time, and he's he's doing the mic, and Chaz is like,
Oh,
I just had to know that thing, Gary.
Oh, that's awesome. I got you.
Did you hear Dylan?
There we go.
Thank you so much for coming.
thank you.
There's something that brought me in here.
I'm always happy to share.
It's nice.
Yeah. You got a
I'm like, Dylan? Seems like the most peaceful person ever. Hostile.
I'm not sure. Yeah, you're, yeah, over time, you're.
It's just, I guess this guy was.
Oh, you guys held on.
Laying on the ground, he said, picked up, apologizing. So, or Gary.
I've never used a picture camera like
Just
that.
tell them. Take a picture. One more, Judy.
Yeah, I was like, last person with that. He just seems so chill.
I don't know, so I'm pretty impressed right now. I'm like, well, I got one of them.
There we go, we can see your eyes. Have a safe trip. Thanks for coming.
Well, you want to
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Where's that pen?
Yeah, I like having that for here.
Would you rather?
I wonder if
We actually came down and hit all those tables.
Oh, no, I got my phone.
All
right, let's go. I don't have to, you know, you got it.
Because I didn't think I got the
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna get out of here. No, I know, you're gonna get out of here. I'm done now. I gotta go.
I didn't go off.